When I was a bit younger, my school and college years, stress was my second name, which I always had those high ambitions and I was driven to succeed, so that anxiety is kinda justified, right? Well, maybe. But I was constantly finding myself in that battle of punishing myself for the previous mistakes I made sometime in the past, and all the remaining times I was worrying about the future and all the mistakes that can happen in the future. And that was just the state that I was operating in. What was happening, I was just mentally constantly jumping from some event in the past to some event in the future. And as you've probably noticed, the missing piece in this event is now, the present moment. But of course, I didn't understand it at the moment. And I'm just happy enough I had a chance to put my hands on Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. So let's discuss it a little bit. Eckhart Tolle is a well-known spiritual teacher, best known for his material on mindfulness, presence, and spiritual awakening. When I just started this book, he was talking about his depression years in life and then the profound realization that came to him during his darkest moments. He described it as a separation of thinking mind from the deeper sense of awareness or presence. That was mine, wait a second moment. That's because I was always kind of proud of my brain's ability to constantly think, constantly analyze everything, but I could never actually imagine that that could be a reason of my stress things that I was talking about earlier. I actually had an opinion that I need to think harder to solve that stress I had in my life. So that was the moment that I got introduced to the concept of identification with thoughts, which already assumes that these are two separate things, identification with thoughts. Imagine it from two different perspectives. First perspective, there is you who is a thinker, with a mind that generates all of those thoughts, identifies with them, believes in them like they're the same text, etc. And then there is another perspective, observer. Tolle suggests that the key to the spiritual awakening and to the inner peace is observing your thoughts without judging them, without being entangled in them. The moment you start watching the thinker, the higher level of awareness is becoming activated. It all sounds pretty neat, right? But how can you observe your thoughts? That's a good question, and I bet there are different ways to do that, but here's the way that I'm trying to practice it. Imagine yourself kind of flying away from your head and just observing your other mind. Without judging your thoughts, without praising them, just watching them. The concept of those two perspectives of thinking you and observing you is crucial to start your spiritual awakening. For me personally, that practice dramatically helps me to slow down my rush of thoughts and just observe them without judging and without emotional attachment to them. Another profound concept that comes with the power of now is living in the present moment, living now. Eckhart Tolle's central message is that the present moment is all we actually have. And it kinda makes sense if you just think about it. Past doesn't exist any longer, and the future will never exist until it becomes now. Both of those time dimensions are alive only in our minds, and if we keep associating with them, that can lead to suffering and unhappiness. And that was probably one of the biggest takeaways for me personally from this book. Probably 99% of my stress was coming either from my past failures or my fear about the future. When I narrowed it down to the present moment, I was quick to realize that at this moment, I don't have that many problems in my life. Identification with our ego or pain body are two biggest concepts that result in that suffering and unhappiness for us. The thing is, however, both of them are fueled by the past or the future. That's where they take the energy from to survive in our heads. However, if we live now, they're not gonna have that energy to survive, and we're not gonna suffer that much or be unhappy that much. So being present now at this moment is crucial to break that link between us and a pain body or the ego and stop that unnecessary pain caused by them. Finally, there's the concept of stillness and presence. That stage kicks off when you stop thinking for a moment and just observe your thoughts. Things like mindfulness, meditation, and observing your thinking mind are the tools available for your disposal to transcend that egoic mind. Before I started to understand those concepts and practicing them, I was constantly finding myself in that thinking rush of striving towards something bigger. When I was in the middle school, my thoughts were powered by the idea of going to the high school. When I was in a high school, my thoughts were occupied by the idea of becoming a good basketball player and getting a chance to come play to the United States. And then when I got the chance and came finally to the US, I was already thinking about the next stage of my career. Do you see the pattern? No matter where I wanted to get or who I wanted to become, as soon as I was getting there and becoming that person, I was already thinking about the next stage stage of my life. The thing is, I feel like I wasn't even aware that I was playing basketball in college in US because I was already thinking about all the next steps of my career. But the irony behind all of that it was my dream from the moment I started to play basketball when I was like 10 years old to come to the US and play basketball here in college. And finally, when that happened, I wasn't even fully enjoying it and I was already thinking about something else. And it works the same way with the material goods. People tend to dream about some magical moment sometime in the future when they get the nice car, the nice big house, and then the life will finally start. And as you guessed, in the majority of cases, that moment will never happen. Which I'm not saying that you're not gonna get any of those things. But with this type of thinking, when the moment comes and you're gonna have the car, the house, and all this abundance, you're already gonna think about the next things like getting a yacht, growing a business even further, etc. This becomes a never-ending circle. It doesn't mean that we are prohibited to have ambitions to strive towards all of those things, but simply it probably means that we should pay more attention to the current moment and enjoy what we currently have and be grateful for that. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, is an amazing spiritual book that helped me to change my life and change my thoughts, or rather the way I'm absorbing my thoughts. To be honest with you, I never actually thought about any of those concepts, and spiritual teaching was something like nonsense for me, and I never paid enough attention to it before I actually dove deeper into it. If you can get your hands on this book, 10 out of 10 I would recommend it to you. And if you guys liked this video and found it useful in any way, it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel and check out other of my videos. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.